Cedric Maxwell podcast
is brought to you by PrizePicks and the Game Time app.
What's going on, guys? Welcome in Cedric Maxwell podcast. I'm John Zannis, and this, of course, is Celtics legend Cedric Maxwell. The Cedric Maxwell podcast, of course, is a proud member of the CLNS Media Network. In this episode, Max is brought to you by PrizePicks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in all of North America. Download that PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS. Get 50 instantly when you play 5. Once again, code CLNS. PrizePicks. Download it. 50 instantly when you play 5. PrizePicks, run your game. And speaking of running their game, Oklahoma City Thunder, Max, bounced back in a big way in Game 2 of the NBA Finals. We'll start there because obviously that's the central thing going on in the NBA, but there's a lot of stuff we're going to talk about as well. Celtics related, more trade rumors, Max's do not do list in terms of what he doesn't want to see the Celtics do. And we'll talk about just generally the state of the NBA. Are we seeing a full-blown changing of the guard? I think the answer we know is probably yes, but we'll see where that goes. But let's get to it, Max. We wanted to talk after Game 1 when the Pacers stunned OKC with that crazy comeback, Tyrese Halliburton heroics. That game was over until the Pacers came back and won it. Game 2, Oklahoma City just didn't really let Indiana ever get that run. Never let them get back in. They played their style, suffocating defense, didn't let them get to the paint, didn't let them get to their spots. Indiana didn't shoot the ball as well, and they just never really made a game of it. After watching 2 games here, where do you kind of sit on just how this series is going, and where do you think it's going to go from here?
Well, I think Indiana is still in good shape. Obviously winning one game in OKC. I think the biggest thing about a game like that is always, it doesn't start until, as they say, the home team gets beat. Well, the home team got beat. And now you have to look at, can they come back? Do they have enough? They have some firepower. Obviously, we know that in OKC. But I don't think we've seen Indiana play their best game yet. And because of that, I'd be a little bit fearful if I was OKC because Halliburton really hasn't played well. He had that one good shot. Siakam has been pretty good. Obi Toppin has been pretty good. But Indiana really hasn't played their full Monty yet. So great shape for Indiana. Obviously, OKC had to win the game. You didn't want to go down 0-2, but a good series right now. Going to be a good series.
Max, you mentioned Indiana hasn't played their best game. Is that something you think they have more? This is the question, right? Like OKC kind of makes you play bad and look bad because they're just so physical, and the way that they play defense makes it so it's really hard to do whatever it is that you do well. Is this a symptom of the Pacers have something they haven't been able to do yet, or they haven't shown yet, or just simply this OKC is just going to keep making them play this way? It's just going to be hard for them to ever go full Pacers and do what it is that they do best.
I would think a little bit of both. I think that obviously look at the way OKC plays defense with Lou Dort, people like that defensively stepping up. But I think a lot of it has to do with Indiana. Just not really playing well so far, shooting the basketball. What I love about Indiana, which makes it difficult for suffering defenses, is the fact that Indiana moves the ball so well. It isn't a one-man operation. That's what was tough for, the Celtics. When you get into a situation where you're trying to beat 5 guys with one guy dribbling the basketball, everybody watching. Indiana, because they move the basketball around, go from left to right, north to south, it makes the defense become a little bit more porous. So I think Indiana's okay right now. Indiana likes their position.
Yeah, I mean, you can't not, right? You split on the road, you steal that first game. That's the goal. You win one, you come back. That's what everybody says. Winning 2 in Indiana, I mean, just winning 2 in a row against this team is going to be hard. I think that's the way people looked at, like, that's how I looked at this series. I think Indiana can keep it close. I think Indiana can steal a game or 2. I don't know how they put together 4 wins against this team. I think it's going to be really, really, really tough. So, yeah, I mean, winning 2 here in Indiana would go a long way towards it. I just don't know if I see it. But you talked about like the way Indiana plays and moving the ball. Like that's the magic in what they do. Maybe this is a problem with NBA discourse, Max, but immediately, what does everybody say? After game one, Tyrese Halliburton gets elevated to top 10 status.
No.
After game two, the discourse is Halliburton's got to shoot more. He's got to do more. He can't carry this team. I don't know if he's good enough here. And everybody just kind of jumps off the bandwagon. I do think it's a problem with how we
It
discuss
depends
things.
on what day it is, John. And
Yeah.
that when you talk about how people, I just saw a clip the other day from D Wade. D Wade, after game one, said Tyrese Halliburton, superstar in this league. And then you get game two, and everybody poo poos on it. I think, again, it depends. And that's what NBA series do. They expose the weak, and they make you play the full Monty. I've been in maybe 2 or 3 of them before, understood, the ups and downs. And the great teams do that. They go through the ups and downs, the roller coasters. What I love about this for Indiana is Indiana has championship pedigree with their coach. Not one of their player has with, you think about Siakam has it, but their coach has it. And because Rick Carlisle has been there, done that before, been there several times, I think the advantage coaching wise goes to Indiana. And that's the one thing I think they can hold their hat on. I think that could change the series and make it more in favor of what Indiana really does well.
Yeah, but I mean, again, talking about the beauty of Halliburton, it's a guy who's always looking for the best play, not a guy who's looking for his offense. A lot of the critique around him is he's got to shoot more. He's got to be the star. He's got to, have a monster game. You see what SGA is doing on the other side. Like, I don't know that that's the answer. I just think that's everybody's quick fix answer after game two.
He's not SGA.
He's not that guy.
If you
He's a
think
different guy.
And if you think he's that guy, then Indiana's setting themselves up for failure. He's a distributor. He's a guy that can get to the paint. He can hit big shots in the clutch. He's not going to carry you along at a 30-point clip. The thing that, I love about SGA is the fact that he's a mid-range jump shooter. Where's the three-point shot going? He beats you like Paul Pierce would have beaten you, like Kobe would have beaten you. These are great guys, and it says something about the analytics of the game, obviously, for the three-point shot. But if you give me a higher percentage, I've said this many times on any broadcast I've been on, you give me a higher percentage from the two consistently, then I'm going to beat you because I get easier shot opportunities. The second thing about a shot opportunity around the paint is you have a chance to get your own rebound. And thirdly, you got a chance to get fouled. And that is what SGA does so well. He constantly and consistently goes to the line to the point that it makes people, kind of pissed off that he goes to the line like that. But he attacks the rim. And I like that. When you think about a superstar player in this league right now, they're lined up around Steph Curry shooting the three, Jayson Tatum shooting the three, Brown shooting the three. This kid shoots the two and attacks the rim. And that's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, look, and he does shoot threes, but really when he has the ball in his hands, he's looking for the best, opportunity. He's a 14 field goal attempts per game guy with Indiana. So that's his game. I do think you're making a huge mistake if you're, I don't think Carlisle's not going to pull him over and say, "Hey, dude, you got to shoot 25 times for us to win here." I think he's got to play that he's got to play. They just got to figure out a way to kind of solve what OKC is doing defensively, which is easier said than done.
Isn't it 1-1?
Yeah.
Isn't it 1-1? I mean, everybody's writing Indiana off. You remember, this is the thing about it, John. Everybody wrote Indiana off at the beginning of the series. Nobody picked Indiana. They said it was that when Indiana won one game, they would be fortunate. Well, they won one game. Now they're going back home with the home court advantage. Can they put together games like that in Indiana? One thing we always know, I've heard Charles Barkley, I heard everybody say it, role players play better when they are home because they love to get pumped up from the energy of the crowd. So look for Indiana's role players to play a lot better at home, and that might give them another advantage.
Yeah. Switching up to the other side, you have what SGA is doing. And again, it's losses, but just the, already historic performance in terms of his first two NBA finals and the amount of points he's putting up. And again, that's what he does, and that's how he beats you. The discourse around him is super interesting as well, because he's boring-ish in terms of he doesn't gut in a modern NBA. He's not dunking, he's not flying through the air, he's not raining, logo threes. He's doing that thing that you mentioned, which is give me that good two, give me the high percentage shot. It's not his stuff isn't even necessarily super high percentage in the sense that he's just an absolute wizard at getting where he wants to go on the court and getting off shots that he can hit. And those are, the midi, getting to the rim and doing all of that stuff, getting to the line. He's an assassin right now. And what he's doing is insane. So just your overall thoughts on SGA's performance. And again, you're right, it's 1-1. We're fickle. You run with the momentum. After game one, is our OKC frauds? Is Indiana going to do it? After game two, you see the blowout and you're like, this is inevitable. But if they pull this off and he wins finals MVP in a year that he won MVP and led the league in scoring, where do you rank this season? Like, how do you view this player overall? Because again, despite his accolades, despite being the MVP winner, finishing second last year, and leading a historically good team.
John, it's called small market. That's what it's
Yeah.
called.
But I mean, how good are we still sleeping on SGA?
Small market, but he is unbelievable. The people who really know basketball understand what they're seeing when they watch him play. How about the fact? Let's talk about this. How about the fact that he got traded from the Clippers for Paul George? How about that? How does that rank in NBA history when you think about Paul George leaves OKC and goes to LA. LA sends SGA. But does he become SGA in Los Angeles playing with those guys? Instead, you put him on a platform where he is able to build and be that guy. Would he be that guy if he was still in LA? That would be the bigger question. So I don't think anybody's talking about his talent level and anybody's questioning his talent. Obviously, think about, the high flying dunks and, guys making the three sign and all that. That's really cool now. But you know one thing that gets you going already? The W. You get the W, baby. You're in. And that's how you're going to be that particular dude. He's been a monster at shooting the basketball, the mid-range game. He beats you consistently because he gets to where he wants to go. It almost seems like there are points, John, where it seems like he's unguardable. Because if you get up on him, he has a way to get by you, and he throws his body into you. He goes to the free throw line. He beats you in increments, one by one, not by the three, consistently.
Yeah. And I mean, again, that trade even more lopsided. That trade's also got you Jaylen Williams, who made All NBA this year, and it's still paying out with a pick swap and another first round pick to come. So again, one of the most lopsided trades in NBA history. A Twitter debate. Here's what happens too: you get to the finals, and every team that didn't make it is always kind of, you're seeing again. I'll hit Celtics fans specifically.
We had that guy. I know where you're going.
No, not entirely, not entirely. Everyone likes to compare everything, right? And everybody's a prisoner of the moment. And there's a lot of recency bias that's going on. But I saw an interesting Twitter debate today talking about SGA. If he were to win Finals MVP in a year that he led the league in scoring and won MVP, and finished second in MVP voting the year before, and a top 5 finish, I think, the year before that. Is he already cleared? Where is he cleared Jayson Tatum in terms of career accomplishments? If he's able to pull that off this year, wins Finals MVP, and has a regular season MVP under his belt, has he cleared Tatum in terms of overall body of work? Because somebody put it out there that, like, well, if SGA does all this, he's already here. And Celtics fans lost their minds, freaked out, and jumped in and listed all of Jayson Tatum's accomplishments, which are many in terms of top 5 MVP finishes, all NBA teams. He's got more stats to pad it, but finals MVP and scoring champion all in 1 year at this age, I don't know. Where do you put it if in that debate?
Yeah, I'll agree. I'll agree.
He
So
clears Tatum, you think?
just hold your breath, because and plug your ears up, because it does. It puts SGA in another stratosphere. How many guys are able to win an MVP and lead the league in scoring and be a finalist? He's already,
If
all if how Twitter goes, if he wins a championship this year. If he doesn't win the championship, you put that on the back burner. But if he wins a championship, he becomes that dude that you talk about. You're going, wow, that is unbelievable. He's done some things right now that Tatum has not done. So it does put him on another pedestal, John, again, if he wins. So Celtic fans, hold your breath. He hasn't passed them yet. He has to win. But if you
he has to win.
But if you put all those things in a big cup, yes. If John, if they had candy and nuts, we all have a Merry Christmas. But that's not necessarily the things that happen. If your aunt had gonads, she'd be your uncle. That's all.
The Don Cherry.
Oh, this is my podcast, John. We always use that kind of stuff.
No, that's the famous Don Cherry line, right?
Yeah, so just hold up. John, let me say this. John Cherry, he didn't invent that line. That was back in the hood.
I know, but
that was Luby and that was Fella. They always used that line back in the day. So and that was when I was in the 3rd and 4th grade. So
yeah, I don't think you could say that in 2025, but that's okay.
Yeah,
but
I just believe that it does. It puts him on another pedestal again. But that's the big if game. That's the Michael Felgers of the world. They want to. Well, if this happens, then this happens. And here's the thing I always say, John: let it happen first. Let it happen. If it happens, then now we can go back and we can revisit that, and we can definitely put a ribbon and a bow on it.
Yeah. Again, he has to win it, but it's not just this. They've got a window that probably is going to last them 2 or 3 seasons, so he could keep stacking that. But yeah, everybody.
John, what happens if they start? What happens if they have to start making moves?
They will, but it's not there yet. But they're close.
You're gonna have to do. You remember when people said
the bill comes due?
Oh my God, the Celtics they're built for whatever, and then you lose this year, and the sky's falling, and they say they want to rip this team apart, and it looks like there are going to be a lot of different changes that happen with this team, and all we have right now is conjecture. That's all. Nobody else is saying one word about. I want to see eventually what happens when Brad pulls that trigger. That's going to be the big thing. What happens then?
Yeah, and we'll see. That's something we're going to fire up here in the second half of the show with some of the, again, I don't even know if we're going to call these trade rumors, but some of the speculation that's being thrown out there about what could happen. Nobody knows deep down.
Trade garbage. Trade garbage. That's what you should say. Trade garbage. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. I'm going to do this, and then you can do that. And then, hey, how about if we do this, and then we can get this player? I've seen Porzingis right now in at least about 6 or 7 different uniforms.
All right. I'm gonna go over some of those scenarios with you in just a minute. Before we do that, we're gonna take a pause to tell you about our sponsor here on the Cedric Maxwell podcast, and that, of course, is PrizePicks. The Cedric Maxwell podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in all of North America. PrizePicks is the best place to turn your sports opinions into actual cash. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. A lot of ways you can play this. You can cross sports. You want to go basketball, women's basketball, baseball, hockey. What I like to do, I like to pick one game. I like to really focus in on that and pick players just from that game. And for this one, we're going to be looking at the basketball playoffs right now between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. Game 3 coming up on Wednesday night. First off, we have to start with the freebie. Free square here. Jaylen Williams, more, 0.5 points. Insert that into your lineup right now. Jaylen Williams, more, 0.5. That's a freebie. Put that in your lineup right away. What else do I like here? Again, I'm riding the Tyrese Halliburton train. I know a lot of people critical of Hallie for not getting up more shots in game 2, which was a blowout loss by the Pacers. I think he's going to up that. Right now it's more on 17.5 for Hallie. I'm taking more. And I'm also going to look over here. I know this is a Green Goblin play, okay? And if you know how this works with PrizePicks, the Goblins are easier to win, becomes with a slightly lower payout. But Alex Caruso at 5.5 points, more is an absolute gimme. So I'm inserting Alex Caruso into my lineup. I think that's a gimme along with Jaylen Williams and Halliburton. That's a nice little lineup there, and that's what I'm going with for game 3. Of course, the special offers don't stop there. You need to go ahead for new users. Download that PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS. Get 50 instantly after you play your first 5. Download the app, code CLNS. Get 50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, Max, we alluded to it. We're going to talk about it now. The crazy trade scenarios going on here. There's nothing concrete worth reporting about, but it really comes down to like choices, and it's the same choices we've talked about. But in the recent weeks, in the past week or so, things that we've heard, several teams interested in Drew Holiday, but he's expensive. We know that. Chris Mannix, I think, went on with NBC, and he said that Jaylen to he thinks San Antonio would do Jaylen for the 2 pick and players going back out. So that's another thing that's out there. And I've always believed this. I've always believed every team that makes a run at Giannis and misses is going to pick up the phone, call Brad and say, what are you doing for Jaylen? And the prevailing sentiment is Jaylen Brown's not being traded unless they get overwhelmed by an offer. But what would you consider to be an overwhelming enough offer for you to be willing to part with Jaylen Brown? Like, how much do you need in return to make that a thing?
That's a tough one. I mean, you got to give me a whole lot before I even think about that. The number 2, but see, you said the number 2 pick, and then you also got to put money in it. Just put, if you
Yeah.
just let's play the game. Just play it fully. If you're gonna play that game, you got to say San Antonio. Who are you gonna give up? It got to be.
Well, what they're assuming is
It
it's
will be
Devin Vassell.
Okay.
Castle apparently, again, if you're to believe what you're to believe, Castle, they're saying wouldn't be available in a potential Giannis trade. They're saying he's off the table. So if Castle's off the table, Vassell, who has an extension that's paying him around $27 million, is what comes back in addition to other things. But whatever you send back to make the money work, plus having to pay that rookie contract, that's going to hurt you. That's going to be expensive. So you're only going to save $7-8 million maybe in a Jaylen Brown trade with San Antonio. If you were to make that, you're really only going to save that with anybody because money's coming back. 7, 8, 10 million is all. So you're talking no matter where you send anybody. If you send Brown, you're looking at 10 million in savings and then pieces. Those pieces have to be pretty freaking good to make that work, right, Max?
Well, how do you feel if you think about Flagg? And I guess we're assuming that that's the number 1 pick, and San Antonio would move him. But
Well, they don't have the number 1 pick. So I mean, they're
excuse
number 2. So you're looking at one of the Rutgers guys potentially. So you're not even looking at a real deal automatic. I mean, look, if there was a clear-cut number 2 in this draft, San Antonio's not talking about it. I think the reason they would even be considered to move that pick is because it's a dice roll. You're not sure if you're getting a franchise caliber player. There, you might be getting a starting caliber player or a player who's got question marks. You got to see what they're going to develop into.
And let me ask you this, since you're saying that, how about the number 3 pick when Tatum came out?
Yeah, but it's a different draft.
The crap pick is the crapshoot is always there. In the draft, you don't know what a guy is going to do in the NBA. And here's the thing I think about. I think about Flagg. And because I'm down here in North Carolina, I have to go through this scenario every day. If you're Flagg right now, and reportedly you made $28 million last year in school, where do you go, John? What do you do?
You're going pro, baby. I mean, it's too
Why?
late.
Why? Why, John? You give me a why, because this is why we do these podcasts. Why? Why would you do that? You're his
Look,
dad right now, and you're advising him. Why would you say that? Now let me say this before you get going. He made $28 million last year. He's not going to make $28 million in the NBA.
nope.
And on top of that, he's playing half the games. Yeah, keep going. Yeah. And top this off, he's not going to be the best player in the league for a minute. One other scenario you throw in there. What happens if he happens to go back to college basketball? How big is that story, John? And how much more money does he make in a year that he goes back to Duke?
Well, the multiple reasons why you do it, Max, is you got to start your clock. You got to start your clock at some point or another, right? Like, meaning in order to get to that real money, you got to start the clock.
Yeah.
And so you got to get into that NBA. It's increasingly becoming a younger man's game. That window of success, yeah, you could stay in college a couple more years and get a little bit more NIL money. But here's the thing.
Look, wait, John.
Wait.
Time out. A little bit? Is that what you said?
But Max, you're going dollar for dollar with the salary. You're assuming he's not going to get any endorsements. He's going to get endorsements. He's going to get a shoe deal. He's going to make more money in the.
He has a shoe deal.
He's going to make more money in the pros as a pro.
He's not going to make more money in the pros this year. He will not, John. He will not. If he goes back to college basketball, he would make more money if he stayed there because, John, let's say, in fact, you're an agent and you're pretty good at doing stuff like that. What kind of story is this if he goes back? And who are you selling? Who can you sell this kid to? Because now he becomes the face of college basketball. Name me, how about this, John? Because you're pretty good at this. Name me 5 college basketball players that you know right now.
I mean, you've got everybody who's coming. That's the problem, is it's all one and done.
John, I said name me, John. I just said name
yeah, I mean, look, you got Ace Bailey, you've got Dylan Harper who are coming in, projected possibly 2 and 3 picks. You got Trey Johnson out of Texas. He's going to be a top 5 pick as well.
And
you have Jeremiah Fears.
Nobody knows those players you're talking about. Nobody knows them. He's still the face of college basketball. He's in the.
No, he's not.
He
Max,
would be. He would be, John. He would be the face of college basketball.
No,
if he doesn't come out, John, it's a bigger story.
It's Brockton, Massachusetts. AJ.
It's a bigger story. It's a bigger story, John, if he doesn't come out.
Max, I'll tell you this right now. There's 2 guys playing this year who are better than Cooper Flagg, who are going to be better. Yes, there are entering college basketball. But beyond that, he's going to make money in endorsements in the pros. He's going to make $13 million a year, which is half of what he made in the NIL last year. And you got to start that clock because eventually you got to get to the second contract and you got to get to the third contract. That money, that NIL money dries up, Max. You got to start your clock.
That money is not going to dry up for a while.
Yeah,
that money is going to still be there. And here's the biggest thing, John. He's playing half the games. He's playing half the college. A college basketball season is maybe 40 games. In the NBA, you're playing 82 games. If you're Duke University and he said, "Look, I think I want to come back. What do I need to come back? I need an insurance policy." You think Duke is gonna? You think one of the big boosters out there goes, "Whoa, got you, big fella, you're in." I'm telling them right now, a bigger story to me would be him staying in and playing in college for a couple of more years. I take another year. It's not the clock. The clock doesn't speed up, John, that much. It's 1 year.
Well, anyway, it's a moot point, Max. The deadline for declaring passed. It was late May, so he can't go back. He's going to the pro. It's an interesting conversation in general. I think you can make a much better case in the WNBA for superstars out there who are. You're talking about Cooper Flagg's going to make $13-14 million in the pros next year. Caitlin Clark's making like a teacher's salary playing in which is not to besmirch teachers and the work that they do, but
John,
compared
I
to
love the way you backtracked then. That was pretty
yeah,
good. That
yeah,
was really good.
but that's what she's making. She's not making, she's
Yeah,
making, exactly.
I get it, but this is the scenario that we're painting right now. Is I thought we start talking about college basketball, and you're saying, well, he's going to get he's getting endorsements now.
He'll
John,
be fine.
how did he
He'll
make
be fine.
$28 million?
Cooper Flagg's going to be fine when he
John,
enters the
let me
NBA.
explain something. Cedric Maxwell, 1973, got $15 a month laundry check. That was it. I needed prize picks, so
I will
somebody
say,
come in and hit me
I
off
will,
with something.
I will say, Max, that I get it coming from the older players who missed it, right? Like you see it twofold. You see the NBA contracts flying out of control, and you're like, man, I was born 20 years too early. Then you see them starting to get paid in college. It's like, you got to be freaking kidding me.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of money to be made here, but Cooper Flagg's going to be fine. As far as the trade situation goes, again, Celtics would be taking one of those other players I mentioned, who are, coming
I,
out this year. And again, you're talking about a lot of one and dones, and nobody knows what would happen there.
I, I don't have it.
Yeah.
I don't. You asked me that. If you're saying the number 2 pick, I can't go there. If you say the number 1 pick,
Yeah.
I might be able to go there. Number 2 pick right now is too much in the air
Okay.
for me to even think about it with Jaylen Brown, because I think he's going to be that much more valuable. It's going to be a reset for the Celtics this year. And I think that's going to be the beauty of what Brad is able to look at and do. If he did want to make that pick, if he did want to make that trade, I think there will be a lot of people who've never. And this is the biggest thing. I don't think I've ever seen a more like Marcus Smart. I don't think I've ever seen a guy who has played as well for the Celtics that a lot of people don't like. They don't like Brown. They don't like. And first thing, I got a brother-in-law who talks about this. Like, oh my God, if he goes to his left hand, he's gonna lose the basketball. Well, he did turn the ball over. So there's a lot of people in Celtic land, Celtic nation, not me, that don't like Brown. So I think that Brad has a lot of things that he can look at and make a decision on.
It's interesting, right? He's always been one of the more perplexing players in that regard, because how much of it is just the vocal minority, loud online trolls, who are out there constantly pointing out things like turnovers, inability to go to the left, all of those things, versus actual fans. I actually think, I have always thought this, the noise created in these spaces far exceeds actual perception. I think if you walked around and you talked to 10 people, 100 people who consider themselves real Celtics fans, and that includes old timers and people who are grumpy and this and that, and asked them, do you like Jaylen Brown? You want to keep him here? I think 80 to 90% are saying yes. Personally, think so. That's what I think. I think
How'd that work out for Marcus Smart?
Marcus was a tough one. I think Marcus, look, I've always said this about Marcus Smart, and I'm critical of both Marcus and Jaylen, and not because of their limitations. It's almost a pushback against the unrealistic expectation of what people think they are versus what they actually are. I think if Celtics fans stopped talking about Marcus Smart as a true number 1 point guard and he can lead a championship team and all of these things, and overstated his value instead, and just simply said, God, I love having a player like Marcus Smart on the team. He's tough. He plays defense. He can plug in. He gives you what you need. An invaluable member of this team. I think I'd be like, yeah, you're 100% right. You're just pushing back the notion of Marcus Smart being a level or two above what he is. I think that's where the Jaylen discourse goes. I think Celtics fans immediately want to insert him into a top 10, top 15 conversation, and he's not. He's always been kind of right on that borderline all-star. Is he, isn't he? And now he cemented himself as a perennial all-star, but he's in that 25 to 30 range of NBA player, which is still really friggin' good. But is he an alpha? Is he a 1A? Could you survive with just him as your guy? I think that's debatable, but I think some people think that is. So when you're the Celtics, you just have to kind of make a decision. And again, we'll bring it back to the overall trade thing. Put on your GM hat here. They got to make moves. some players are going to get you stuff, maybe not the best, not everything that you want, but they'll get you some stuff. And some players are just going to be salary moves. The players that get you stuff are Jaylen Brown or Derrick White. You got to trade one or the other. You're the GM. Which one do you do? Assuming you're getting a really good return for Jaylen and a slightly lesser one for Derrick.
If you're going to make that move and you're going to cash in, it would have to be Brown, because you're going to get more for Brown than you would get for Derrick White. So if you're really going to make that impact and that move, it would have to be Brown because of his value level to a lot of other teams and what he's able to do. Derrick White is not going to get you back what all this stuff you think that you might get. He's been a hell of a player, but he wasn't the Finals MVP. He was, close to being an all-star. So let's not get carried away with the whole Derrick White conversation.
Yeah, I'll backtrack a little bit. I said at the beginning, Brown gets you more because he has superstar potential, whereas White maybe does not. Brown can be at least your second, possibly even your primary scoring source on a team, depending on where it is. Can he carry a team? No. Can he be your primary scorer? Yes, he can. So if a team has been looking for that and thinks that that's their superstar, particularly a team like San Antonio, if you look at Wemby's window being the next 10 years, you go get Giannis or Kevin Durant, that window shortens, right? That window is now a 2-year window, a 3-year window. You get Jaylen Brown, that might be a 7-year window, so that's a different story. So if a team is going to want that and thinks that that's what they need, he might have more value. However, a team that is looking at money and thinking, I kind of like White's contract a little bit more. He's not going to give me all of that, but boy, does he give me a lot. He does have a little bit of value. So I do wonder what the market would be for one or the other. Both would hurt like hell to lose, and you want to find a way to keep as many players as you can. But yeah, you say Brown. If you got to do one, you're doing Brown.
Yeah, you got to do Brown. If you're going to do
Yeah.
one, your return on your bang for your buck is going to be much more.
Okay. Now let's go to the scenario B. I'll walk you through all your scenarios. Scenario B is trading a player, and you might end up doing a combo of things. Trading a player just to get rid of their salary, which means you're taking a great deal less in return. And that's Drew Holiday or Kristaps Porzingis. Now, Porzingis obviously is expiring. That in itself has value because if you don't trade him, you can let him walk, and that money comes right off the books. If you trade him, you're taking back bad contracts. So it's a tricky one with him versus Holiday, who's got present day value to a contender, but also has that longer deal as he's getting a little bit older. You got to trade one right now, taking all of that into consideration with the idea that you're just getting rid of the salary and not getting much in return. Which of those two are you trading?
I think I would go with Drew Holiday. And the reason I go with Drew Holiday is because with the scenario you painted with Porzingis can still be a difference maker, a bigger difference maker if he is right. Will he ever be right again when it comes to shooting the basketball, defending the basketball, all those things he did when they won the championship? He was the difference maker. Drew Holiday is tremendous defensively. And I think that because you talk about Porzingis, even with that, you still have that salary slot that you're going to lose. If you get rid of Holiday, you're taking back salaries, taking back bad salaries, and you're not going to be able to eliminate those. If you keep Porzingis, you have a bigger option of moving that on, especially if you just say, hey, you're able to walk $30 million, it comes off the books.
Yeah. I'll ask you this one now. It's going to be hard between Porzingis.
I didn't know I was going to have math today. I did not know that. I didn't get my test. I didn't sleep on my book last night and going, man, John's going to give me some tricky questions. But go ahead, John. Go ahead.
It's multiple choice. It's multiple choice. Our own Noah Dalzell, who is a host of the Garden Report and does terrific work at CLNS Media, threw out a Twitter poll the other day, which I thought was interesting, and I wanted to ask you the same question. If you can only keep one big on the roster, Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Kristaps? Is it going to be Al? Is it going to be Luke Cornett? Well, you can only keep one.
I take Al. Obviously, Al is older. His window of opportunity is going to be a short one. But if you talk about right now, what he could do for me right now, I think because he shoots the basketball, he defends the basketball, he doesn't break down physically. Everybody's, oh, he didn't play as many games. That's because the Celtics did not want him to play as many games. So Al Horford will be the guy I will keep.
You want it? Who do you think won the poll that Noah put out there?
The guy that who you would keep.
Yeah.
Noah put that out, and people fell in love with Luke. They fell in love with Luke.
It was close. It was Al 1, Luke 2 by a landslide with Kristaps as a distant third. I got to circle back to it. And I will say, I agree with your point on Holiday. And in this thing, I think it's insane. Like, yes, Kristaps could be a game changer. People want to call him injury prone, and it's hard not to, but I do look at two freakish injuries or situations that derailed the season that doesn't fall in line with the whole injury prone thing of like big men with like, the type of injuries big men typically get. You're talking about an ankle injury no one in the history of the world has ever gotten. I mean, and then you're talking about a mystery illness that you had a whole team of medical experts couldn't figure out what it was, that he couldn't shake, which is weird because it was essentially a cold. Those two things are odd. I think Kristaps, again, gives you more standalone value given his age. It gives you more options. I think getting rid of, I'm fairly certain Porzingis starts this season with this team. That's my opinion, because his expiring gives you flexibility.
Yes.
You could trade him at the deadline. You could run it back with as good a team as you can get here. Wait to see if Tatum returns. Decide whether you're making a playoff push. Hang in there with Porzingis. Have the best lineup you can possibly have going into the playoffs, and then whatever happens.
In your opinion, does Tatum come back this year?
I don't know if he does, but the thing with Porzingis is, worst case scenario, you let him walk and 31 million comes off the books and you're under the tax, or you renegotiate at something more reasonable given his age and the fact that he likes it here, which is another reason to maybe keep Jaylen around, because that might, entice Porzingis to stay because they're buddies. So I would keep him. I do not think Tatum comes back this year. I think that's foolish. I think that this year's a wash, but I think you have to sell fans on the possibility of it. But I think Porzingis absolutely stays here. Getting off the trade stuff, I want to circle back to a couple of NBA-related items that we talked about, and we'll rapid fire go through some of these. But Tom Thibodeau fired in the last week after the Knicks go down. Really surprising considering that they reached the conference finals for the first time in 25 years, and that's his reward. But sometimes that isn't what matters when it comes to a coach. You've played for several coaches in your life. Thibs is one of those guys, and I don't know if Bill Fitch is a great comparison here. But he's the type of guy he can wear down players with his style. He plays them a lot of minutes. Whether or not they're limited based on what he can do, I'm not sure. But did you think, and that was the excuse they gave, did you think that was a fair firing?
I hated it in the way that everybody was all pumped up about the Knicks. It got them as further than any coach has gotten, I don't know, in eons. He had a team that should not have beaten the Celtics, but they did. They were a game away from losing to Detroit, took them to 7. So I think it was, at the end of the day, I just think that they were determined to make a move. It didn't make any difference about, you could say the same thing about, Malone, who was in Denver. They made a point of saying, well, we're gonna fire him right now. And he had come off winning the championship. Was it right that he fired him? No. They had made a decision that they were going to do that, and they wanted to move away from him. What I hate about it is the fact that it seemed like his players, especially Jalen Brunson, your best player, love who you were. And did you go through him and talk to him about the scenario, about the movement? It's going to be interesting when you think about who's going to be there. I think it's going to be Malone at the end of the day, and I hope it is. I hope it isn't Jay Wright. And the reason I say Jay Wright, the ex-coach of Villanova, because he has all those Villanova players there. I mean, let me see how that worked out with Rick Pitino coming to Boston. It didn't. Okay, I get it. No, I think that you already have a guy in Malone who has been an NBA coach, an NBA champion, who understands how to deal with the media. So I don't like that Thibs got fired, but I think you're going to have to be real careful about who your next coach is with the Knicks. As much
Yeah.
as I like Sam Cassell, I think he would be really good there. I just don't think that the Knicks are going to pick a guy, who hasn't had head coaching experience and bring him in as a marquee guy. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the scenario that plays out.
Yeah. The other thing is that coaching is again, 1 year you're coach of the year, the next year you're fired. We've seen it now with Mike Browns, Monty Williams, Tom Thibodeau, Nick Nurse, Bud Nolzer with the Bucks, Dwayne Casey with the Raptors, D'Antoni. That's every coach of the year going back since 2023, who's no longer employed by the team that they won coach of
You
the year
know,
with.
you
And in
know who
fact,
said, you know who
yeah,
said this and spoke to him? Joe Mazzulla said
and
that said that at me at that. He said, "Max, you're hired to be fired.
yep,
That's how you are no better than your last game." And in Tom Thibodeau's recent year, he was no better than his last game. So even it's like I have a brother-in-law again, and bringing him up. He talked about, oh my God, Monty Williams. I really felt bad for him. Monty Williams played 1 year. He coached 1 year. He had a $69 million contract, and they said, "Go home, take it, and we'll just send us your address, and we'll be good." And then you look what happened to Detroit. They turned out to be a team that was on the cusp of a team right now that is going to be much better over the next couple of years by making that coaching change. So even with this change, I think again, it depends on who you get. If you're going to talk to me about did the Knicks do the right thing or not.
yeah. So you mentioned Joe. Let's pivot. You look at Joe's body of work. He gets thrown into the fire. Year one, they get to the playoffs, disappointing exit to an 8 seed. They go down 3-0 in that series. It is what it is. You come back, you win the NBA finals. That's with you forever. You're an NBA championship winning coach. No one's taking that away from you. You get to the next year and you lose to a team you probably should have beat in the second round. If you look at Joe's overall body of work with his regular season record and the fact that he was thrown into the fire, not expected to, a second or third assistant on a team going to head coach, you'd say he's done a remarkable job. And again, just the way that he's gotten them to play and buy into his style, it gets you a title. And it's really hard to argue that Joe Mazzulla has been good for the Celtics. But again, what have you done for me lately sort of scenario. It's hard not to look at Joe and say, well, 2 of 3 seasons, Celtics have been eliminated by a team they should have beaten. How much you put that on the coach, I don't necessarily know. But if they come out and struggle, even though you're expecting a step back this year with a roster that's not going to look the same and Jayson Tatum being out for most of it, if they're a play-in team, Max, they miss the playoffs altogether. Can Joe survive that?
Be tough. It really would be tough.
Even if the roster isn't
It
one,
would be tough.
yeah,
Does Joe want to survive that? That's
yeah,
another question. Because does Joe want to pivot and go backwards and have that kind of team that's going to struggle? It would be very, very tough when you look at it. I am, gosh, I'm one of his biggest fans when I think of
yeah.
Joe Mazzulla. But in the modern NBA, with the coaching carousels the way they are, it is what did you do? And we know how Boston is, how loud it can become when you think about coaches losing. Bill Belichick, the greatest to ever do it. It was a bombardment at the end of his reign to get his ass out of here.
Yeah.
So he's one of the greatest. So would it surprise me? No. If his team was a play-in team, I think there would be a lot of noise.
So I'll ask you this because you've played for coaches who can be tough and gruff. You've played for nice guys, nicer guys. You've also covered them, in your role as a broadcaster. So you've seen a lot in terms of what works. How important is it? Because you mentioned Belichick. I always say this with Joe Mazzulla. Media can always feel a little bit slighted when a guy doesn't answer your questions, but fans don't give a crap about that, especially when the team is winning, because they like those guys more than they like us. And that's always been a fact. So when Joe doesn't answer questions or slaps a reporter around at a press conference, I kind of find it funny. Some people get up in arms about it. It is what it is. But those guys are the guys who are, writing. There's that saying, you never insult people that buy ink by the barrel full. Like, if the people who are setting the narratives for you is that media and things start to go horribly wrong, that's how things go downhill quickly. And I think it always ends badly for people who don't play nice to a degree, with very few exceptions. But even Belichick, like, people were quick to pile on because he beat them up for 20 something years. Acknowledge the greatness when he's great, but boy, are they sitting there waiting to bury you the second you go down. If you could advise Joe, would you say, "Hey Joe, make nice with these
No,
guys. It's going to
no,
help you." No?
no. I say, Joe, stay the course. Be
Yeah.
who, be who you are,
And I think he will.
and he will be who he is. And here's the thing: the biggest narrative that you have to paint is how do the players feel about Joe Mazzulla?
That's the only thing that matters.
And that's the only thing that matters. And what we know right now is the guys on this team, they will go to war for Joe Mazzulla. And that's all that matters. You can't, I know the media loves to be, we play nice night. And, somebody to be like,
I agree.
Doc Rivers, or, you're going to be like Tito. Tito, one of the most beloved coaches
He
over
was
there.
great.
Yeah, Tito's great. You can't, hey, at the end of the day, it should be more about the players and the organization, the relationship. Joe bends over backwards to make sure that these guys are comfortable. He tries as much as he can to insulate these guys. He told me one day, he said, I don't want Tatum to feel all that pressure. I said, Joe, that's impossible. It's like, why? I said, it's impossible because social media. Social media is going to make all these guys feel pressure that Cedric Maxwell never felt during his career. Never
Yeah.
felt that. There was Eddie Alderman. He was around during the time back in the day. He was beating the bandwagon for Cedric Maxwell to get out of here. But I didn't hear it because I didn't listen to the radio and I didn't have any way to get it. Somebody might tell you something from time to time, but right now, if a player wants to find out if he's beloved or not, all he has to do is turn on Twitter. See what your feed is. See how
Yeah.
people beat you up, where they're coming from. I mean, Jayson Tatum, Jayson Tatum is so complex in the fact that he's been so good for so long and has gone to these finals and won a championship, close to being the MVP. And right now, we're still there's a narrative out there that Shea is better than him even before he gets the championship. He's accomplished more than Jayson before he even gets a championship. So that's how it turns back and forth. And I love the banter that we talk about when we talk about these teams and when we talk about these coaches. But at the end of the day, your relationship should be more solid with your players than it is a relationship with you or with me or anybody out there with the ink in their hand
100%.
or pressing the button or pressing the button. If that's
100%.
what you live for, pressing the button and making those guys happy, then you've already lost your job. You've already
That's what
lost
I said.
the ability with me.
That's what I say. Bobby jumps on the Garden Reports and he's all flustered by Joe. And I'm like, nobody cares, Bobby. They're rooting for him, not you. Even though I'll defend Bobby. I don't like it when Joe's mean to him, but that's beside the point. That's just personal. But I get to yell at Bobby. Not, I'm just that's it. No, but but in terms of that, I've said that 100%. Like, all
Wait a
of these
minute,
coaches.
is this the same Bobby Manning that put my name out there one
Oh
time
yeah.
as a high ranking he got some information from a high-ranking Celtic official.
Yeah.
And then Joe Sway was with him and said, "Oh, go ahead, Bobby, tell it." And he said, "Cedric Maxwell,
Cedric said
high-ranking."
it.
It's like I don't have a title, I don't have a ranking. So this is the same Bobby Manning you're talking about. Okay.
You're plugged in one way or the other. But that's what it comes down to. Every coach who loses their job, there's two reasons. One, can't fire the players, so you got to fire the coach. Number two, some sort of mutiny or the players just aren't responding. Some guys eventually they just get tuned out, even the really good coaches. Mazzulla knows that. That's the fate he's going to suffer eventually at one point or another, where that system and his style and the way he is. But the only other reason would be gross incompetence. And Joe's clearly proven that he is a basketball savant. So it's not going to be lack of understanding what's going on there. I think coaches are always low hanging fruit. And I think that they get too much blame for when things go wrong. It's really up to the players. I think the players keep wanting to play for Joe. Joe stays here. Other NBA related news before we wrap it, Max, because we had two other topics we wanted to get to. One, and then we're going to circle back to the finals because I do have one more question for you there. But number one, Michael Jordan makes his return. Uh-oh, that's an eye roll. Michael Jordan is coming to broadcasting, Max. How do you feel about that? I can kind of tell already.
He doesn't. I don't know why we're getting all hung up. His expertise as a basketball broadcaster, and I've heard him speak on the game. He's very clear, but I just don't see him being that dude. I mean, and I know we're bringing him back because when he's not on the floor, how does he affect the game in that way? What is this insight that's going to tell me that he knows and he can teach me? You know what I love? And I'm so sad that he isn't back in it. Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson, I thoroughly enjoyed Mark Jackson. Thoroughly enjoyed what he brought to the table. His insight, his banter, his little phrases. I love that, especially. And then, but people just got caught up. Him and Jeff Van Gundy, they were two of my favorites of all time. Because first, Jeff Van Gundy was a truth teller. He goes like, "I hate this. I absolutely hate this." And that to me, that was refreshing.
But you don't think the star power matters with Jordan?
And we're looking at the same thing with Brady? How did that work?
But Brady is the best comp out there, period. I think Jordan has more natural personality.
Brady is the best commentator? Is that what you said?
Best comparison. I think he's the worst commentator.
Yeah, okay. If that's
and I never thought Brady would be good. Why? Because he didn't have personality when he played. And I was afraid he wasn't going to criticize people, and he did both of those things. And all he did was
what personality traits do you see?
Jordan's kind of an a-hole.
What?
Jordan's kind of an a-hole. You think he's gonna bring that kind of level to?
I don't think he brings that, because what you do, you start talking about what you did and your comparison, and nobody's going to be like you. Phil Jackson made a great point talking to Kobe Bryant about that. He said Kobe was complaining to Phil Jackson, "Phil, these guys don't work hard enough. They don't work hard enough." And finally, Phil pulled him to the side and said, "Kobe, understand this. Nobody is going to outwork you. So you to make that comparison is crazy." Michael Jordan, because he's been so great, I don't know if the great ones relate to me as much as the guys who were in the middle of the road to understand the game. Because you had things that you were trying to build on. It didn't come. The game came to Michael so easy at the end. I would love to hear his stories, but I got a lot of his stories already when I watched Last Dance. I'm not interested in seeing Michael Jordan as an analyst.
Yeah, we're interested in your stories, though, Max.
Well, my stories are the common man stories. they are relatable, because I might start talking about, a sandwich. I might start talking about something that was in your refrigerator or your ex-wife or something like that. Michael, he's going to build his on winning, 6 championships? How well they did it during that time. Is he going to tell me how much right now he hates Scottie Pippen? Is that going to come up, man?
Or Isaiah?
Or Isaiah? Is he going to talk about that? No, he's
I don't
never.
know. Here's the thing. Here's
Hey,
what I do
I
think.
mean,
Has
remember when Magic did it? How'd you feel about when Magic did it?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay,
Magic
okay, okay,
Magic was a special brand of bad.
okay,
Yeah. So
okay.
I don't know about that.
Okay, so I don't know where Jordan comes back in and he makes this profound leap when it comes to that. Reggie Miller is really good. Don't you like Reggie Miller?
I
Uh,
I
I mean,
I
there's
think
certain guys right now. Their broadcast team are pretty good with who they have. So
it's really hard to be good. And
who are you going to put Michael with? Who are you going to put Michael
well,
with?
no, it's more. I think he's doing studio related stuff, not game stuff.
Why do I want to see Michael Jordan in the studio?
Like that, you're trying the same way you run to see Barkley in studio.
Barkley's different. Barkley can be an asshole. He can be asinine. His personality. He's so outlandish with
He's
things
going to be a special contributor. He's not doing games. He's not going to.
he
Yeah,
does. I mean, Barkley will poo poo on himself to make you
yeah,
laugh. Him and
yeah.
Shaq. That's the spirit.
Michael's not doing games. Michael's going to be jumping in there and doing that. I'll ask you this, okay? So you made the leap, um, from player to broadcaster. I don't know if that's something you thought you would do necessarily when you
No,
got there.
I didn't.
Yeah. And so who that you played with or who's out there not doing this thing right now you think should be doing this? Any ex teammates, any ex Celtics teammates that you're thinking, I don't know why this guy's not doing this. He'd be terrific.
No, not at this time. Because most Celtic players that I know right now are older, and to relate now, Kevin McHale wasn't bad at what he did. I think I would wanted him to use some more of his personality, more of his persona when he was on. Um, no, so I don't know anybody that I know right now. The only person I know right now that I wish was doing this and I didn't play with is I'm still a huge fan of Isaiah Thomas. Of the Pistons. I'm really just a big fan of what he brought to the game, talking about it, his relatability. Those are the things that I look at. So nobody that I played with.
Yeah. Yeah, Isaiah. We've shown Isaiah some love here. And Knicks tried to get him on a bunch. He's been good when he's done some CLNS appearances. I like that. Um, Bringing full circle back to the NBA Finals, final topic I want to discuss, Max. You mentioned this. We talked about it at the top of the show. There was a changing of the guard vibe even before you got to the NBA Finals when you just simply look at the Final Four and who represented. And again, it's a star driven league, but you look at the faces of each of the teams who had reached the Final Four. And what you don't see is there's no Giannis, there's no LeBron, there's no Steph. Instead, you had Jalen Brunson. Anthony Edwards didn't get there, but that's Edwards' second straight conference finals appearance with Minnesota. And now you're looking at Tyrese Halliburton, SGA, and kind of a new wave of stars. I could go into a whole spiel about roster construction and what I think needs to happen as far as the NBA going forward and why you do need those younger stars to be good. But do you think it's over for the old guys? Are we ever going to see a Giannis, Steph, Durant, or LeBron championship again in our lifetimes?
That will be no, no, and no. If they stay in the same places, no. I mean, where are you putting Kevin Durant where he's going to be in that narrative? Can he be that leave the place of being an alpha to going to do something else? Giannis is a tremendous force. I heard the story about Giannis going to Toronto. What does he bring to Toronto that you're going to say, "Whoa, wow! I think they could win the championship." Steph Curry is still one of the greatest shooters ever to be around. But I think that that day is now over. LeBron James at 42 years old this year, that day is past when they're going to win the championship. So the changing of the guard is there. It will be there. And I don't see any of those guys that I talked about are going to win the championship again.
I think, based on rumors and trends, I do wonder because right now, I think Bill Simmons put it out there into the world about Durant to San Antonio, and
Bill
immediately
who? Bill
Bill
who?
Simmons.
Oh, this is
Yeah,
the
I
guy who
know.
did the. I don't mind. Go ahead. You go ahead and knock yourself out, big fella. Is that the
Oh,
same one that didn't mention me as the Finals MVP? Is that the one?
that guy.
Oh, the same guy who said I
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah, maybe
Talking
you and
about.
Bill.
Oh, am I sour grapes here? I'm sorry. My bad. You go ahead and mention. Go ahead and say. I didn't mean to stop you. Go
You
ahead.
know
I'm
what?
listening now.
You should get. We need a therapy session. You got to get Bill on your podcast. I'm a Bill fan, but I understand it. But it's not that he mentioned it. It's that the odds after that got put out there. All of a sudden, the odds went went from unlikely to very likely that was going to be a trade destination. And I know some people follow. Those Vegas odds follow trends. They don't necessarily represent actual reality. I think Durant has a shot as a member of the old guard to potentially join a team like that. And in the next year or two, depending on the next leap Wemby makes, and if he can stay healthy, potentially get there. I think unless the Lakers could pull another heist, I think it's over for LeBron. I think Steph, they had a shot to challenge OKC if they got there this year and then Steph got hurt. I don't know if they can run it back again, but they're always creative with the way that they do trades too. So much has to do with what can they do to their rosters. I think LeBron stays, I think Steph stays, I think Durant moves. What they bring in or what they get around them, I think is going to dictate whether that's that. But this
The
might be it.
Durant
Yeah.
Durant is the closest thing that I would say could win it because I think he could take a subservient role and he could be dare I say this, he can be an Al Horford and go someplace and you can plug him in as a scorer and he doesn't need the ball. He could put him with younger players. He wouldn't need the ball to be effective. And I think they know they could go to him at the end. He could be dependable. So he's
Yeah.
the one I think would be more so about winning a championship out of the four guys you mentioned.
Yeah, still love KD. I do want to mention before we wrap that again, this is the Cedric Maxwell podcast on the CLNS Media Network. If you like this pod, you got to subscribe to it. Please rate and review it wherever it is that you take in your podcasts. Fresh reviews are always great. Cedric's pod is always been consistently good. Please like, rate, and review. And if you are watching this on the CLNS Media YouTube channel and you're not a subscriber, you should be a subscriber. So go ahead and subscribe and hit the like button, do all of that stuff, comment. We'll jump in there. We'll comment with you.
Hold
Recommend it
on.
to your friends.
I got something to show you. Hold on 1 second.
All right, you go. Take a walk.
Hold on. You just hold
All
the
right.
fort for 1 second.
All right. It's just me right now.
Keep going. I got a little surprise for you.
Okay. Max is in his kitchen.
This thing going. I'm in my house right now. Now, this is you never mentioned the fact that I was on the Shannon Sharp podcast, did you?
I have not yet. You've been on it twice now.
And this is what they sent me.
Wow.
This is his brand of
Is that brandy? Cognac?
Cognac that he sends out. I had a lot of fun on that show.
Yep.
Ocho Cinco, myself, Shannon Sharp, and who was it? It was Joe Johnson, another 31. And so we had a lot of fun, but we're driven and we want you to subscribe because the only way we become stronger is with you. And we have so much fun. And that's why I try to spread the news about our podcast. And the thing we used to say all the time is we're going to keep it on the 100. We're going to tell you what we believe, not what we think. We're going to tell you what we believe. So we always say it. We're going to leave it right now. And John, this is what we say, John. Let me see if you can get it right, John. We're going to leave it. What do? We leave it on we give it to you on the 100. Come on, John. Come on, try it.
Oh, I can't. No, you don't want me to say that.
Just try it.
I don't want to say it.
Try it.
No. No. You're I'm good. You got it. No.
John said, I ain't leaving on the 100.
No.
You don't want me the cool white guy that comes up with a word like that.
I'm not the cool white guy though. No, I'm not. I'm an old dad with glasses.
I see guys walking down the street. Yo, what's happening? What's happening, bro? I ain't feeling it. You don't want to say the 100. Okay, I got it.
Nah, I'm an old Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, you know what that is? That's staying in your lane. That's what we call that. So I have no problem with you not saying it.
I'm not
I'll
doing
say it
it.
right. What we do is we try to keep it on the 100.
There it is. And that's how we end it. This is Max. I am John Zannis. Thank you guys again for watching this episode of Cedric Maxwell Podcast. We will see you next time. We could have special guests. Max might have sort of dropped an Easter egg, but we'll tell you about that when we get closer to it. But you will have to, of course, just follow along and be ready for that next episode to drop. We might have a special guest on that one. I'll keep it on the down low. Max, as always, thanks, bud.
All right, buddy. Take it easy.